Thank you for joining us today for a conversation centered on a recently published report from the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine entitled Strengthening Sustainability Programs and Curricula in Higher Education. My name is Erin Bromagem. I am with the Office of the Mayor of Los Angeles and proud to have served as a member of the committee that prepared this report. I'm joined by three of my colleagues from the committee today and National Academy staff. First, Dr. Ann Kapuscinski, our committee chair, is with the University of California at Santa Cruz. Dr. Arun Agarwal with the University of Michigan, and Dr. Lita Benenson, our director of this study with the Academy. I'll take just a moment to acknowledge and thank our other committee members not on this panel, Dr. Dorcita Taylor, Dr. Garrick Louis, and Dr. Christopher Boone. So I'll turn now to you, Ann. Can you share with us a brief overview of this study, our approach, and the report's recommendations?
Our committee received a statement of task like normally happens in National Academy reports. And the statement of task really had sort of three main parts to it. First, we were asked to develop recommendations on how sustainability programs can strengthen their core competencies and their skill-based curriculum, and to think about the different approaches to doing that. We were also asked to consider recommendations and thinking about good ways to integrate existing frameworks that are really important in national and international dialogue, such as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and to consider the priorities of end users. After considering the statement of task, our committee decided to follow the approach that you see summarized in this slide. First, we hosted 3 workshops for public input on our study charge, and we did them in 3 different parts of the country. At these workshops, we made a point of inviting stakeholders from a variety of perspectives, both the educators, some representatives of students, and also importantly, people who were end users. We thought it was really important, and this is actually one of the things we emphasize in our report, to improve the connection between what the end users want, end users being the diversity of employers in academia, in the public sector, in the private sector, and to align better what their needs are, what they're looking for in graduates, and what this burgeoning growth of sustainability education programs in higher education are actually providing to students. So we had these 3 workshops. We had over 75 participants, and the richness of the discussions and the input had a huge influence on what we ended up putting in our recommendations. Project staff at the Academy also examined the relevant research and data on workforce research and curricular needs and sustainability, and our committee members also did a fair amount of that. And then finally, committee members spoke with congressional staffers to understand current legislative efforts on sustainability education. We don't have the time today to go through all our recommendations, but this slide gives you a sense of the 3 principal themes under which our recommendations were organized. First of all, we gave recommendations on strengthening sustainability education programs at undergraduate and graduate levels. Secondly, we talked about the need and laid out recommendations for building the academic environment for sustainability in higher education institutions. So this thought about the academic environment across departments, ways that departments can work together, and also the important role, for example, of leadership at the highest levels, as well as the work that's happening bottom up by the faculty and the students. And then our third themes of recommendations involve developing a sustainability workforce to understand and address current and future sustainability challenges. I'll give you just a flavor of recommendations by talking to you about one of the recommendations that was under the first theme of strengthening sustainability education programs. So one of our key, I think, sort of distinctive recommendations here is that we emphasize the needs that these sustainability curriculum programs should train students to understand the highly interdependent, varied, and complex context of sustainability, including organizational context. In a simple way of thinking about this, we want to make sure that students don't think about sustainability just as if it's something that sort of dropped down from the sky today. We want them to understand the historical context that led to many unsustainable phenomena and outcomes today, and to understand, therefore, where both the challenges and the opportunities are for moving forward towards sustainability, therefore to understand contemporary trajectories and consequences of sustainability processes. Also, another very important part of the context is to develop ability and capacity and some practice at applying their learning in real world experiential learning contexts through community service, organizational internships, embedded internships, et cetera, so that they can be more effective implementers of effective transitions towards sustainability. And we want them to also to be able to understand the trade-offs between variety of content goals of sustainability, trade-offs for effective partnerships that can be affected by history, experience, and perceptions and quality of relationships among different groups and even power dynamics. So that gives you a feel for one of our recommendations. I should also say that across all these recommendations, they're designed not to be prescriptive and to say every sustainability higher education program should do X, Y, and Z. We embraced from the very beginning of the report and all the way through that there are many different ways of developing a robust sustainability program or to strengthen one that exists, depending on the current context of your institution, its strengths and its opportunities. And instead, our recommendations are really presented more from the perspective of, here are some really key issues that you should consider and you should think about as you set out to strengthen your existing programs or to develop new programs.
So now, the time we have remaining, and we have a little bit of time to go through this, I'm going to lightning round it out to my colleagues here on the panel and ask each of them to respond with an answer to the question, what is one key takeaway from the report that you would like the audience to remember? So let's start with you, Anne.
I think I'll focus on one of the recommendations, one of our later recommendations, which has to do with developing change agents. And for me, this is really important to take away because, you know, we're seeing across the country and around the world a flourishing and really a burgeoning of sustainability programs. And a lot of this is driven by the young people, the students who are entering undergraduate and graduate curricula, who see the problems around them in the world. They're feeling a growing sense, in some cases really an existential sense of urgency to solve these problems. When we think about climate change impacts, but it's you know, deep intertwining with economic systems and ecological systems and injustices in our society, et cetera. They're coming to these sustainability programs because they want to develop the tools and they understand that they need to learn about these things in a systemic way. But they both want to understand the knowledge, but they also want to come away equipped to actually translate that knowledge into action. So I think one of our most important recommendations is about developing change agents and basically urging people who are developing these sustainability programs or strengthening existing ones to really think about what they can do to train young people so that they are better equipped to initiate, advance, and manage and implement actual change, proactive change on the ground that's informed by the deep sustainability knowledge. And that's true whether you're a student who's going to major in a sustainability degree, where the aim of the degree is to really get breadth of knowledge, so it's strengthen the breadth of the different fields you learn, and you learn a lot about the interconnection among those fields. Or if you're a student who's going to be majoring, for example, in engineering or in ecology, but you want to have, with that depth, you want to be able to look at your issues through a sustainability lens. So maybe you're getting a PhD that's got a disciplinary focus, but you want to learn some of those sustainability principles and skills and contextual issues so that you're better equipped to be a change agent. So I think really the ultimate outcome of all the recommendations in our report and the ultimate outcome of sustainability education programs should be to accelerate and sort of deepen the quality of the training we're doing for change agents who can then go out into the world and tackle these questions and help our civilization to actually achieve a transition to sustainability before we run out of the time to be able to do that.
Thank you all. I'm going to take moderator's privilege and answer as well and say, hopefully my answer threads a little bit, but it will be replete with my own personal bias, and say that our report points to the importance of experiential learning. And I think that being able to have students, have faculty engage with the community in which they're operating or what they're learning from, and really be in an exchange of information and learning as opposed to a one-way street or an extractive method of approach, I think that's really valuable. And that's something that we're trying to do as we look at how to implement the Sustainable Development Goals in the city of Los Angeles. And I hope it's a trend that catches on as local governments get more engaged with their local universities and others and create that space for that exchange of learning that'll be so rich in advancing sustainability. So I want to stop now and thank you all for joining us today. I want to take the opportunity to thank the National Academies and its staff, including Franklin Carrero Martinez, Emi Kamiyama, Austin Applegate, and our study director, Lita Benenson, as well as our report sponsors, including the Cynthia and George Mitchell Foundation and the National Academy of Sciences George and Cynthia Mitchell Endowment for Sustainability. You can find more about the report via the link on this slide or access through the QR code. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you'll check it out. Take care.